Ah, welcome back, you beautiful disasters, you walking plot twists, you magnificent creatures who refused to die when the story demanded it. You know what's happening right now, don't you? While you're sitting here, breathing, existing, they're somewhere else, rewinding. They're going back through the footage, the memories, the moments when everything fell apart around you, and they're watching it again. Not once, not twice, but over and over like it's a scene from a horror film they can't stop analyzing. They're trying to figure out how you didn't scream, how you didn't shatter, how you stood there with everything crumbling and somehow stumble. They're studying that moment like investigators at a crime scene, except the crime was their expectation of your collapse. And you became the unsolved mystery that keeps them up at night. See, they had it all planned out, didn't they? They knew exactly how this was supposed to go. You were supposed to break, supposed to beg, supposed to fall apart so publicly, so dramatically that they could all gather around and say, see, we knew they couldn't handle it. We knew they were weak. They had their lines rehearsed, their sympathy performances ready. Their eye tried to warn them, speeches prepared. But then you did something they never calculated into their little equation. You took the hit. You absorbed the impact that was designed to destroy you. And instead of shattering into 1,000 pieces they could sweep up and forget, you just stood there. You didn't flinch the way they needed you to. You didn't break the way their script required. And that's when their comfort turned into confusion. And their confusion twisted into something they'll never admit out loud, fear. Now they're going back, replaying it frame by frame, trying to understand what they missed. How did they do that? What did we not see? Where was the breaking point supposed to be? They're analyzing your face, your words, your silence, searching for cracks that never appeared, looking for the moment you were supposed to collapse that never came. They thought they were watching a tragedy unfold, but halfway through they realized they were actually witnessing something else entirely. They weren't watching your end, they were watching your evolution, and that realization hit them like cold water in the dark. Because now they understand they weren't the directors of your downfall. They were extras in your origin story, background characters in the scene where the real you was born. Let me tell you what's really happening in those replays. They're not just watching the past, they're trying to protect their future. Because if you survived that, if you walked through that fire and came out not burned but forged, then what else are you capable of? What other predictions about you were wrong? What other boxes they tried to trap you in are you going to shatter next? Every time they watch it again, they're not gaining clarity. They're losing certainty about everything they thought they knew. They believed you were one thing, soft, manageable, predictable, and in a single moment, you revealed you were something completely other. They thought they were pressing play on your destruction, but what they actually witnessed was your resurrection. And that's the kind of plot twist that haunts people long after the credits roll. You want to know the sickest part? Some of them are watching it with admiration now, disguised as analysis. I always knew they were strong. I always saw something special in them. No, they didn't. They saw what they wanted to see, which was someone they could break, someone whose pain they could use to feel better about their own weakness. But now that you've proven unbreakable, now that you've demonstrated a level of strength they can't comprehend, they're scrambling to rewrite their own role in your story. They want to be remembered as supporters when they were actually spectators hoping for a crash. They want credit for your strength when all they contributed was the weight you had to carry. But you remember, don't you? You remember who was there and who was watching, who held your hand and who held their breath waiting for you to fall. Here's what they're seeing now when they rewatch that moment. A person who processed pain differently than they do. Someone who swallowed suffering and transmuted it into something else entirely. Someone who took what was meant to be poison and somehow, impossibly, turned it into fuel. They're seeing someone who doesn't operate on their frequency, who doesn't break down according to their timeline, who doesn't need their permission to heal or their validation to rise. They're watching someone who made suffering look like a choice rather than a curse, who carried weight like it was always meant to be there, who transformed trauma into armor so seamlessly they missed the exact moment it happened. And that's what makes it a horror movie for them, because horror isn't about the monster. It's about realizing you never understood what you were dealing with until it was too late. They thought they knew your limits because they measured you against their own. They thought your breaking point would match theirs, that your capacity for pain had a ceiling they could calculate. But you shattered their metrics. You exceeded their understanding of human endurance. You took hits that would have hospitalized their spirit, and you didn't just survive them, you metabolized them. You used them as raw material to build something they can't even name. Now when they look at you, they don't see the person they knew, they see the consequence of their own miscalculation. They see evidence that some people aren't made to break, they're made to evolve through breaking. And that evolution, that transformation from what they expected to what you became, that's the horror that plays on repeat in their mind. Every time they press rewind, they're hoping to find the moment where it makes sense, the frame where your reaction becomes predictable, the second where you fit back into the box they built for you in their understanding. But it never comes. Instead, they watch you do the impossible again, handle the unbearable again, survive the unsurvivable again. And each replay drives home the same inescapable truth. They never knew you at all. What they knew was their projection, their assumption, their comfortable little fiction about who you were. The real you, the one who stood in that fire and didn't burn, that person was always a stranger to them. And now that stranger is the only version of you that exists. And they can't unsee it, can't unknow it, can't go back to the safety of their previous ignorance. Let's dig into what they're really analyzing in those replays. Because it's not just the moment itself, it's everything that came after. They're watching how you moved the next day, how you spoke the next week, how you existed in the months that followed, searching for signs of the damage they were certain had to be there. They're looking for the limp, the hesitation, the trauma responses they've seen in others, but you're not showing them what they need to see. You're not performing the role of the wounded for their comfort. You're not giving them the satisfaction of visible scars they can point to and say, see, it did hurt them. And that absence of their expected outcome, that's what's driving them into obsessive rewatching. Because humans need patterns. They need predictability. And you broke the pattern so completely you've become the glitch they can't stop trying to decode. They're examining your words from that period, dissecting every sentence for hidden pain, for coded cries for help, for anything that validates their belief that you must have been suffering the way they would have suffered. But your words don't crack under their analysis. Your sentences don't reveal the weakness they're hunting for. Instead, they find clarity where they expected chaos, strength where they anticipated fragility, evolution where they predicted regression. They're reading your silence like it's a language they should understand, but it's written in a dialect of resilience they've never learned to speak. Your quiet wasn't weakness, it was focus. Your distance wasn't running, it was strategy. Your absence wasn't breakdown, it was breakthrough. But they can't accept that, so they keep replaying, keep searching, keep hoping the next viewing will reveal the truth they need. That you're human like them, breakable like them, limited like them. Here's what makes this a horror movie specifically, and not just a drama. The monster isn't visible. In their replay, they can't point to the moment where you became what you are now. They can't identify the transformation scene, the bite, the ritual, the origin. You were human, then you were something else. And the transition happened in a space they can't access, can't understand, can't replicate. That unknowability, that's the source of their fear. They're watching a metamorphosis with missing frames, a becoming without a visible process. And in that gap between what you were and what you are lives every nightmare they have about their own limitations. Because if you could change that fundamentally, that quickly, that completely, then everything they believe about fixed human nature is wrong. And they have to confront the possibility that they're not stuck the way they are. Because that's how humans work. They're stuck because they've never been pushed hard enough or chosen to push themselves past the point where transformation lies. They're not just rewatching for understanding anymore, they're rewatching for survival strategy because you've become unpredictable, unreadable, and that makes you dangerous in ways they're only beginning to comprehend. When you were someone who broke the way they expected, they knew how to interact with you, how to position themselves relative to you, how much respect or dismissal to deploy. But now you're a variable they can't solve for, an unknown quantity in every equation, and that mathematical uncertainty is keeping them up at night. They have to recalculate everything they thought they knew about power dynamics, about resilience, about what it means to survive. And in that recalculation, they're forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. You're not playing the same game they are, you never were, and they were so busy assuming you were playing that they missed the moment you changed the entire board. Watch what happens next, because this is where it gets truly cinematic. They'll start telling stories about you, reshaping the narrative to make themselves feel less powerless in the face of your transformation. Oh, I always knew they were different. I could tell something was off about them. They always had this intensity I couldn't quite place. They're retroactively inserting themselves into your story as knowing observers rather than shocked witnesses, trying to reclaim some sense of foresight they absolutely did not have. But you were there. You remember the real story. You remember when they treated you like background noise, when they dismissed your depth as drama, when they mistook your complexity for complication. Now they're rewriting history because the present is too uncomfortable. Because admitting they completely misjudged you means admitting they might be misjudging themselves and everyone around them. And that level of uncertainty is too much for their fragile sense of reality to handle. Well, let me tell you what's happening in their bodies when they watch these replays, because this isn't just intellectual, it's visceral. There's a physical response happening, a tightening in the chest, a flutter of anxiety, a primal recognition that they're watching something outside their understanding of human limits. It's the same feeling people get watching horror movies, that delicious terror of witnessing something that shouldn't exist according to the rules they know. But this isn't fiction. This is footage of reality, documentation of an actual person actually surviving what shouldn't be survivable, and that makes it more disturbing than any scripted scene could ever be. They're experiencing cognitive dissonance at a biological level, their brain trying to reconcile their model of how humans work with the evidence of you not working that way at all. And that dissonance creates a kind of psychological vertigo that keeps pulling them back to watch again, hoping repetition will bring clarity. But it never does. You know what they're really afraid of. They're afraid they're going to need that same strength someday and not have it. They're watching you like a test they might have to take, studying your performance like it's a preview of their own potential breaking point. And they're terrified they won't measure up. Your survival isn't just impressive to them, it's threatening because it raises the bar. It changes the standard, it redefines what's possible, and therefore what's expected. Before you, they could point to their own moderate sufferings and call themselves survivors, could wear their small endurances like badges of honor. But after watching what you walk through without breaking, their struggles look like inconveniences, their pain looks like discomfort, their survival looks like just existing. You didn't just survive for yourself, you accidentally created a new baseline for strength, and now everyone who witnesses it has to measure themselves against it, and most of them are coming up short, and they hate you for that even as they can't stop watching. Here's the twist they didn't see coming, the plot turn that transforms this from a one-time shock into an ongoing, haunting, you're still here, still moving, still evolving, and every day you continue to exist undestroyed is another day that proves their theories about you wrong. They thought the replay would lose power over time, that familiarity would breed comfort, that eventually they'd process what happened and move on. But it's getting worse. not better, because you're not static. The person who survived that moment isn't frozen in time like a museum piece they can study and classify and put behind glass. You're actively building on that foundation, using that survival as a launching point for further transformation. And every new evolution you undergo makes them go back and rewatch the origin, trying to find the seed of what you're becoming in the soil of what you survived. And they can never quite find it because your growth doesn't follow their logic, doesn't progress along their predicted paths, doesn't manifest in ways their limited understanding of human development can anticipate. They're creating theories now, spinning elaborate explanations for how you did what you did, because humans can't handle mystery, can't tolerate unsolved puzzles, especially not when the puzzle is a person standing right in front of them. They must have been through worse before. That's why this didn't break them. They're probably in denial. It'll hit them later. They're just really good at hiding the damage. Every theory is an attempt to restore order to their chaos, to make you fit back into their framework of understanding, to return you to the category of comprehensible human. But their theories don't stick, because you keep contradicting them with your continued existence, your ongoing strength, your refusal to delayed collapse according to their timeline. You're not in denial, you're in acceptance. You're not hiding damage, you're integrating experience. You're not pretending to be okay. You're actually transforming in real time. And that real transformation, that genuine alchemy of suffering into strength, that's the phenomenon they can't theory their way around. Let's talk about what this rewatching is costing them. Because there's a price for this obsession, a toll for constantly replaying your finest hour while they're still trying to survive their ordinary days. Every time they watch you handle that moment, they're reminded of how they would have handled it. And the comparison isn't flattering. They're confronting their own limitations through the mirror of your capacity, measuring their depth against yours and finding themselves shallow, testing their resilience against yours and discovering themselves brittle. This isn't just observation, it's involuntary self-evaluation, and they're failing the test they're administering to themselves. The horror movie they're watching isn't really about you anymore. It's about them, about the terrifying gap between who they are and who they need to be to survive what you survived. And that gap is widening every time they press play, because you keep proving it wasn't a fluke, wasn't adrenaline, wasn't denial. It was genuinely you, genuinely capable, genuinely built different. They're developing symptoms now, physical manifestations of their inability to process what they witnessed. Some of them get angry, suddenly irritable and aggressive, because anger is easier than awe, easier than admitting someone exceeded their understanding. Some go quiet, withdrawn, because they're lost in the replay, trapped in the loop of trying to understand, sacrificing present moments to decode past ones. Some become obsessed with you specifically, checking your profiles, monitoring your moves, looking for the crack they know must be there, must be coming, must reveal itself eventually because their worldview depends on it. And some, a dangerous few, decide the problem isn't their understanding but your existence. And they start trying to create new breaking points, new tests, new pressures to see if they can succeed where the first challenge failed, not realizing they're not testing you anymore. They're testing themselves, and every failed attempt to break you is another data point proving what they don't want to accept. You're not breakable, not by them, not by anyone. You feel it, don't you? That strange energy of being watched even when you're alone. That sensation of eyes on you even through closed doors and digital distances. That's real. That's them in their private moments, pulling up the memory again, hitting replay on the footage in their mind, trying one more time to solve the equation of you. They're not watching out of love or concern or even curiosity anymore. They're watching out of necessity, because you've become the standard against which they measure everything else. Would I have survived that? Becomes their internal question before every challenge. And the answer, the honest answer they can't voice, is almost always no. You've become their benchmark, their impossible standard, their measure of strength they can't reach but can't stop measuring themselves against. And that makes you more than a person to them now. You're a concept, an idea, a possibility that both inspires and terrorizes them. Here's what they don't understand about that moment they keep rewatching. It wasn't magic, wasn't luck, wasn't some gift you were born with that they weren't. What they witnessed was the culmination of 10,000 smaller moments they never saw, never valued, never recognized as training. Every time you swallowed your pain in silence, you were building capacity. Every time you chose to keep moving when stopping would have been easier, you were constructing endurance. Every time you processed trauma alone in the dark, instead of performing breakdown for an audience, you were forging the armor they saw in that moment. The strength they're rewinding and replaying wasn't spontaneous. It was architected, built brick by brick in moments they weren't watching, weren't caring about, weren't present for. They want to understand the moment without understanding the making, want to comprehend the performance without studying the preparation. And that's why they'll never crack the code, never solve the mystery, never stop rewatching in confusion. They thought strength was loud, thought it announced itself, thought it came with visible muscles and aggressive postures and constant demonstrations of power. That's why they missed yours completely until it was too late. Your strength was quiet, internal, invisible until the exact moment it needed to manifest. And then it appeared fully formed like it was always there. And in a sense it was, just not in places they knew to look. You built your foundation in the basement while they were decorating the windows. You reinforced your structure in silence while they were broadcasting their renovations. You prepared for impact while they were assuming safety. And when the impact came, when the moment arrived that separated the prepared from the pretenders, you stood and they fell, or they watched others fall. And that distinction, that visible proof of different internal architecture, that's what created the split between your world and theirs. And that split is permanent. Let me tell you what's happening to their sleep. Because this obsession doesn't respect business hours, doesn't clock out at 5, doesn't take weekends off. They're waking up at 3 in the morning with your face in their mind, replaying the scene again, analyzing the moment again, trying again to find what they missed. They're having dreams, where they're in your position, facing what you faced. Except in the dream they handle it differently. They break, they scream, they shatter, and they wake up grateful. It was just a dream but also disturbed, because the dream revealed what they already knew. They wouldn't have made it, couldn't have handled it, aren't built the way you're built. Their subconscious is processing what their conscious mind refuses to accept, working through the implications of your survival in the space where they can't lie to themselves, can't pretend, can't maintain the comfortable fictions they wear during daylight hours. Some of them are studying you now, not with hostility, but with desperation. Like you're a textbook for a test they're terrified of taking. They're watching how you move, how you speak, what you choose, trying to reverse engineer your resilience, attempting to download your operating system into their own framework. But it doesn't work that way, does it? Strength isn't software you can install. Resilience isn't a program you can run. Transformation isn't a technique you can copy. What they're seeing is the output of your internal processing, the visible result of invisible work. And they want the results without doing the work, want the destination without walking the path, want to become what you became without going through what you went through. They're trying to skip the suffering and jump straight to the strength, and that's not how alchemy works, that's not how transformation happens, and their failure to replicate your results just deepens their obsession, intensifies their rewatching, amplifies their need to understand. They think anger is your weapon. They think your screams, your rage, your lashing out will make them regret what they did. Oh, how adorable. Let me tell you something, sweetheart. Anger is a trap. It's cheap. It's predictable. It's what they expect from you. They want you to snap. They want you to break. because the moment you do, they get to sit back, fold their arms, and say, "See, I told you they were unstable." They'll paint you as the villain in their story. They'll sleep like babies, knowing they've won. But silence? Oh, silence is a weapon they don't see coming. It's not just the absence of words. It's the absence of reaction. The absence of validation. When you don't react, you starve them. You starve them of the satisfaction they crave. And starving someone, that's the slowest, most painful death of all. Think about it. Every insult they hurl, every trap they set, it's bait. They want you to take it. They want you to dance to their tune. But when you stand there, stone-faced, staring into their soul, oh, that's when the fun begins. Their confidence crumbles, their facade cracks, and suddenly, they're the ones doubting themselves. Your silence, it becomes the loudest thing in the room. And trust me, that silence will haunt them far longer than your screams ever could. Anger is a trap. Silence is the escape. Choose wisely. Silence is not emptiness. It is not weakness. It is not surrender. Silence is a weapon. A blade forged in the fires of discipline and cooled in the waters of patience. It is not just the absence of words. It is the absence of validation. You see, they feed on your reactions, your anger, your pain, your tears. It's like oxygen to them. Take it away, and what do they have? Nothing. Just empty words echoing in the void. Silence is starvation. It's denying them the very thing they need to survive. And when they realize you're no longer their source of fuel, that's when they panic. That's when they unravel. Think about it. Every time they provoke you, every time they try to break you, they're fishing for a reaction. They're casting their line, hoping to hook your anger, your frustration, your pain. But when you stay silent, when you refuse to bite, they're left standing there, holding an empty rod, wondering where they went wrong. Your silence is a mirror. It reflects their own insecurities, their own fears, their own failures. And most people, they can't handle what they see. They'll try harder. They'll get louder. They'll get nastier. But the harder they try, the weaker they look. And you just keep walking, silent, unbothered, invincible. Silence is not just a response, it's a rebellion. And in a world obsessed with noise, rebellion is the ultimate power. The first to fall never hears the footsteps. They're too busy laughing, too busy gloating, too busy believing they've already won. But the wolf, it moves like a shadow, silent, swift, unseen. And then it happens. The first fall, the moment the wolf's teeth sink into their arrogance, the moment their laughter turns to screams, the moment they realize they were never in control. You can see it, can't you? The shock in their eyes, the fear in their trembling hands. They thought they were untouchable. They thought they were safe. But the wolf doesn't play by their rules. One down, many more to go, and the wolf, it's just getting started. They'll remember this moment, the moment they realized they were the prey all along. Here's a little secret about people. They hate looking in the mirror, not the physical kind, the emotional one. They hate being confronted with their flaws, their failures, their fears. And that's exactly what your silence does. It turns into a mirror, forcing them to see themselves for who they really are. Think about it. When someone lashes out at you, when they try to hurt you, it's not really about you. It's about them. It's their own insecurities, their own pain spilling over. And when you don't react, when you just stand there, silent and strong, you're holding up that mirror. You're making them face the very things they've been running from. And trust me, most people would rather burn the world down than face themselves. You've felt it, haven't you? That sting when they overlook you, that ache when they betray you, that fire when they dismiss you like you're nothing, like you're less than nothing. They think your silence is surrender. They think your calm is cowardice, but they're wrong, so wrong. The wolf doesn't howl to prove itself. It doesn't bare its teeth to show its strength. It waits. It watches. It learns. And when the time comes, they laughed at the wolf, but the wolf wasn't laughing. It was waiting. And now they're the punchline. Weakness? No. That's their game, and the wolf doesn't play games. It wins them. Picture this, a fortress, tall, impenetrable, surrounded by walls so thick nothing can break through. That's what your silence is. It's a fortress. They can't breach it, no matter how hard they try. They can yell, they can scream, they can throw everything they have at you. But those walls, they don't even crack. And here's the best part. While they're exhausting themselves trying to break you, you're conserving your energy. You're growing stronger. You're building. And when the dust settles, when they're left standing in the rubble of their own chaos, you'll still be standing. Untouched, unbothered, victorious. You've felt it, haven't you? That crushing weight of being unheard, that frustration of screaming into a void. They ignore you, they dismiss you. They think your silence means you've given up. But they're wrong, dead wrong. The wolf doesn't howl to fill the silence. It howls to shatter it, and when it does, the world will tremble. They think silence is weakness. They think stillness is surrender. But the wolf knows better. Silence is a weapon. Stillness is a strategy. And when the storm comes, they won't see it coming. The storm is coming, and the wolf, it's already in the eye of it. Let's talk about the loneliness. Because make no mistake, strength is lonely. Silence is lonely. Walking away is lonely. But here's the thing about loneliness. It's not a curse. It's a crucible. A forge where the strongest steel is made. You've felt it, haven't you? That ache of being alone, that sting of being misunderstood, that fire of being dismissed. They call you cold, distant, unfeeling, but what they don't understand is that your silence isn't emptiness. It's focus. It's resolve. It's the quiet before the storm. The wolf doesn't howl for the pack. It howls for itself, and in that howl it finds its strength. You see, the pack is a prison, a cage built on rules, expectations, and compromises. But the lone wolf, it's free. Free to roam, free to hunt, free to be. But freedom comes at a price. It's lonely, it's dark, it's cold. Not everyone can handle it. But you, not everyone. Think about it. When you're surrounded by noise, by chaos, it's easy to lose yourself. Easy to forget what you stand for, what you believe in. But in the silence, there's no hiding, no distractions. Just you, raw and unfiltered. And that's where the real growth happens. It's not easy, it's not pretty, but it's necessary, because the strongest people, the ones who changed the world, they're the ones who faced themselves in the silence. They're the ones who embraced the loneliness and came out stronger on the other side. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when you bite your tongue, when you swallow your rage, when you refuse to give them what they want. It's not easy, it's not natural, but it's powerful. Silence is starvation. It's denying them the very thing they need to survive. And when they realize you're no longer their source of fuel, that's when they panic. That's when they unravel. They'll try harder, they'll get louder, they'll get nastier, but the harder they try, the weaker they look. And you just keep walking, silent, unbothered, invincible. Let me tell you something about the people who try to tear you down. They're terrified of you. Oh, they won't admit it. They'll call you names, mock you, try to make you feel small. But deep down, they're scared. Scared of your potential, scared of your strength, scared of the fact that you don't need them. That's why they lash out. That's why they try to control you, manipulate you, break you. Because if they can't bring you down, they have to face the truth. And that truth, it's that they're the weak one. Your silence forces them to confront that truth. Every time you don't react, every time you don't give them what they want, you're reminding them of their own weakness. And that's the kind of pain that sticks, the kind of pain they can't escape. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when you bite your tongue, when you swallow your rage, when you refuse to give them what they want. It's not easy, it's not natural, but it's powerful. Silence is starvation. It's denying them the very thing they need to survive. And when they realize you're no longer their source of fuel, that's when they panic. That's when they unravel. They'll try harder. They'll get louder. They'll get nastier. But the harder they try, the weaker they look. And you just keep walking. Silent, unbothered, invincible. One day people will look back at your life. They'll remember the things you said, the things you did, the impact you made, but most of all, they'll remember the way you made them feel. Your silence is part of that legacy. It's a reminder that you didn't let the noise of the world drown you out, that you didn't let the chaos of others define you, that you stood tall, stayed strong, and chose peace over conflict. And that legacy, it's not just about you. It's about the people who come after you, the ones who look to you for inspiration, for guidance, for strength. Your silence isn't just a response, it's a lesson, a reminder that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is say nothing at all. You felt it, haven't you? That moment when you bite your tongue, when you swallow your rage, when you refuse to give them what they want. It's not easy. It's not natural, but it's powerful. Silence is starvation. It's denying them the very thing they need to survive, and when they realize you're no longer their source of fuel, that's when they panic. That's when they unravel. They'll try harder, they'll get louder, they'll get nastier, but the harder they try, the weaker they look. And you just keep walking. Silent, unbothered, invincible. The storm, not the one outside, the one inside, the one that rages in the quiet corners of your mind, the one that whispers doubts, fears, and insecurities, the one that screams for release. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when the pressure builds, when the weight of their words, their actions, their chaos threatens to crush you. But here's the thing about storms. They don't last forever. The wolf knows this. It doesn't fear the storm. It doesn't run from it. It stands tall, silent, and unyielding. It lets the storm rage. It lets the winds howl. It lets the rain fall. And when the storm passes, the wolf is still standing. Your silence is your anchor in the storm. It's your way of saying, I will not break. I will not bend. I will not fall. It's your way of turning the storm into strength. They think silence is weakness. They think stillness is surrender. But the wolf knows better. Silence is a weapon. Stillness is a strategy. And when the storm comes, they won't see it coming. Be victory, not the kind they celebrate with cheers and applause, not the kind they measure in trophies and titles. No. Let's talk about the ultimate victory, the kind that doesn't need an audience, the kind that doesn't need validation, the kind that's written in silence. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when you walk away, when you refuse to play their games, when you choose peace over conflict. That's the ultimate victory. They'll call it weakness, they'll call it surrender, but here's the truth. Walking away is the ultimate act of power. It's your way of saying, you're not worth my energy. It's your way of rising above the noise, the chaos, the drama. The wolf doesn't howl for approval. It howls because it can. And when it walks away, it's not running. It's rising. Your silence is your victory. It's your way of saying, I am not defined by your words. I am not confined by your expectations. I am free. And that freedom, that's the ultimate victory. Victory is not measured in battles won, it's measured in silence kept. And the wolf, it's already won. Welcome back, you beautiful contradiction. Yeah, you. The one they can't quite figure out. The one who walks into rooms and changes the air pressure without saying a single word. I've been waiting for you because I heard something interesting lately. Something that should make you smile in that dangerous way you do when no one's watching. They're calling you a gangster now. Not to your face, of course, never to your face, because that would require the kind of courage they pawned off years ago for comfort and conformity. No, they whisper it in parking lots, in group chats you're not in, behind cupped hands like they're sharing classified information. He's a gangster, they say, and their voices tremble just slightly, caught between admiration and absolute terror. But here's what's really happening. Here's what they'll never admit out loud. Here's the truth that keeps them up at 3 a.m, refreshing your social media like it holds the answer to their emptiness. They're not calling you a gangster because you're violent. They're calling you a gangster because you're uncontrollable. They're not whispering your name because you're dangerous to their safety. They're whispering because you're dangerous to their illusions. You're the living proof that their comfortable little lies about how the world works, about what's possible, about who deserves what. You're the proof that all of it is negotiable. And that terrifies them more than any weapon ever could. Let me tell you what really happened to you. And I don't mean the surface story. I mean the underground excavation of your soul that nobody witnessed except the walls of your room and the voice in your head that wouldn't let you quit. Somewhere between your innocence and your evolution, you died. Not physically, not even emotionally at first, but spiritually. You flatlined. The old version of you, the one who smiled for scraps and apologized for existing and waited for permission to breathe, that version got betrayed so deeply, abandoned so completely, misunderstood so violently that it simply stopped functioning. And what happens when something dies but the body keeps moving? Something else takes over, something colder, something calculated, something that doesn't flinch anymore. You didn't plan this transformation. Nobody does. You can't schedule your resurrection, but when you woke up from that death, when you opened your eyes in the wreckage of who you used to be, you realized something that changed everything. You realized you didn't need them, not their approval, not their understanding, not their love, not their validation, nothing. You had crossed into a place beyond needing, and that's when you became untouchable. That's when you stopped playing by their rules and started rewriting the entire game in a language only you understand. They watched it happen in real time, this metamorphosis, and they didn't know what to call it except dangerous. So they settled on gangster because that word carries weight. It carries mythology. It carries the implication that you operate by a different code now, a code they can't access or manipulate or decode. And you know what's funny? They're not entirely wrong. You do operate differently now, not because you're criminal, but because you're free from the prison most people call normal life. You walk with the confidence of someone who's already lost everything and realized it was all an illusion anyway. You talk with the precision of someone who learned that words are weapons and silence is armor. You move through the world like someone who knows exactly where the exits are and exactly how much time everyone else has left before they realize they're trapped. But let's go deeper, because calling you a gangster is actually their way of avoiding the real word, the word that would force them to confront what you actually represent. See, a gangster breaks society's rules, but you broke something more fundamental. You broke their emotional infrastructure. You walked away from the script they handed you at birth, the one that says, work hard, stay humble, wait your turn, trust the process, believe in karma, forgive everyone, keep the peace. You read that script. You memorized every line. You performed it flawlessly for years until one day you realized it was written by cowards for cowards, designed to keep powerful people compliant. So you set it on fire and wrote your own. And that's not gangster energy. That's revolutionary consciousness wrapped in gentleman control. They call you cold now, don't they? They say you've changed. You're not the same person. You're harsh. You're distant. You're unforgiving. Let me translate that for you, because I speak their language fluently after years of decoding coward speech. When they say you're cold, what they mean is you don't warm yourself on their approval anymore. When they say you've changed, what they mean is you're no longer available for exploitation. When they say you're harsh, what they mean is you tell the truth and it cuts through their comfortable delusions like a blade through silk. When they say you're distant, what they mean is you're out of reach now, beyond their manipulation radius, operating at a frequency they can't tune into without short-circuiting their entire worldview. You're not cold, you're clear. You're not changed, you're awake. You're not harsh, you're honest. You're not distant, you're protected. And that combination, that lethal cocktail of clarity, consciousness, honesty, and boundaries, that's what makes you look like a gangster to people who've spent their entire lives playing it safe, coloring inside the lines, apologizing for their existence. To them, anyone who refuses to shrink looks like a criminal, because in the empire of the average, excellence is treated like treason. In the kingdom of the comfortable, growth looks like violence. In the church of conformity, authenticity is the ultimate heresy. Let's talk about that walk. You know the one I'm talking about. The walk that makes people pause mid-conversation when you enter a room. It's not arrogance, though they'll call it that because they need to dismiss what they can't embody. It's not aggression, though they'll claim you're hostile because they mistake boundaries for barbed wire. It's certainty, pure, distilled, unshakable certainty in your bones about who you are and what you're not willing to tolerate anymore. You walk like someone who's died and come back with the cheat codes, like someone who's seen behind the curtain and can't unsee the machinery. You walk like you know something they don't, and here's the secret: you do. You know that most of life is theater, elaborate performance art where everyone's pretending to be busy, pretending to be happy, pretending to be fulfilled, pretending to matter. You know that the loudest people are usually the emptiest, that the ones posting the most inspirational quotes are often drowning in quiet desperation, that the ones preaching about loyalty are frequently the first to betray when the price is right. You've seen through the masks, you've cataloged the patterns, you've studied human behavior like it's a language, and now you're fluent. And fluency gives you power they can't comprehend. You can predict their moves before they make them, read their intentions before they speak them, see their betrayals before they commit them. That's what makes you dangerous. Not violence, not anger, not aggression, but awareness. You're hyper-aware in a world that profits from keeping people distracted and delusional and dependent. You're clear-headed in a society that medicates consciousness and celebrates numbness. You're awake in a culture that treats sleep like a virtue and calls dreamers dangerous. They sense this awareness radiating from you like heat from asphalt in summer, and it makes them nervous because aware people can't be controlled, can't be manipulated, can't be gaslit into doubting their own perception. Aware people are threats to systems built on lies. So they need to label you something dismissible, something that lets them write you off without examining why you affect them so deeply. Gangster works perfectly for this purpose because it implies you're the problem, you're the deviant, you're the one who strayed from the path of righteousness, when really you're the only one who stopped pretending the path was leading anywhere worth going. They need you to be the villain in their story, because if you're not the villain, if you're actually the hero who escaped, then that means they're still trapped. And that realization would destroy the careful architecture of denial they've constructed around their mediocrity. But here's what they don't understand about the energy you carry now. This so-called gangster energy that makes them nervous and intrigued in equal measure. It's not about intimidation, it's about immunity. You've become immune to the tactics that work on most people, immune to guilt trips and emotional manipulation and fake emergencies and crocodile tears and performative vulnerability. You've developed antibodies to their poison, and now when they try to infect you with their drama, their chaos, their need for attention disguised as crisis, it just slides right off you like water off titanium. You're coated in something they can't penetrate, a shield forged in betrayal and tempered in abandonment. They mistake this immunity for cruelty, but it's actually compassion for yourself. Finally, after years of being compassionate to everyone except the person who needed it most, you realize that protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's survival. That saying no isn't mean, it's necessary. That walking away isn't cold, it's intelligent. You learn the hard way that some people don't want to be saved. They want an audience for their drowning, and you're no longer available for that role. You resign from the position of emotional firefighter, therapist without a license, savior of the perpetually struggling. And now you're just a man on a mission who doesn't have time for people who aren't on theirs. And that mission, let's talk about that for a moment, because it's important to understand what you're actually building while they're busy whispering about what you've become. You're building an empire of one, a fortress of self-sufficiency, a kingdom where the only opinion that matters is yours, and the only approval you need comes from the mirror. You're constructing a life so solid, so unshakable, so impenetrable, that when the storms come, and they always come, you're not scrambling for shelter. You are the shelter. You're not looking for rescue. You are the rescue. You're not hoping someone will save you. You're becoming someone who doesn't need saving. This is what gangster energy actually is, in its purest form. It's self-reliance taken to its logical conclusion. It's the understanding that you are your own cavalry, your own backup, your own plan B, your own emergency contact. It's the bone-deep knowing that if everything falls apart tomorrow, if everyone walks away, if every door closes, if every bridge burns, you'll be fine, because you've already survived worse with less. You've already been abandoned by people you thought would stay forever, betrayed by people you trusted completely, dismissed by people whose opinions you valued, and you're still here, still standing, still building, still becoming. They sense this self-sufficiency emanating from you, and it unnerves them because most people are dependent on something, someone, some external validation to feel okay about themselves. They need the likes, the comments, the approval, the attention, the admiration, the envy. They need to know they're winning the comparison game. They need constant reassurance that they matter. But you've severed those dependencies. You've cut those invisible strings that keep most people dancing like puppets. And now you move through the world with the freedom of someone who genuinely doesn't care what anyone thinks. And that's terrifying to people who've built their entire identity around managing perception. Let me tell you something they'll never say out loud, but it's written in their eyes every time they look at you, every time they see you moving through your life with that calm, collected, unbothered energy. They're jealous, not of your possessions or your status or your achievements, though they might claim that's what it is, but of your freedom, your mental liberation, your ability to exist without their approval or validation or acknowledgement. They're jealous that you escaped the matrix they're still plugged into, that you found the exit door they can't even see, that you're playing a completely different game while they're still fighting for scraps in the old one. But here's where it gets interesting. Here's where the gentleman part of the equation comes into play, because you're not running around bragging about this transformation. You're not posting manifestos or giving speeches or trying to wake people up who want to stay asleep. You're moving in silence. You're operating with discretion. You're building your empire quietly while they're busy making noise about nothing. You understand something most people never learn, that real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. It just is. Real power makes people straighten their posture when you walk in, makes conversations pause, makes energy shift, without you doing anything except existing at a higher frequency. This is the gentleman control they can't figure out. This is the calculated calmness that makes them think you're planning something sinister, when really you're just conserving energy by refusing to react to every provocation, refusing to engage with every drama, refusing to explain yourself to people who aren't invested in understanding. You've mastered the art of selective engagement. You've learned to save your energy for things and people that actually matter. And to everyone else, you're just a polite smile and a firm boundary, courteous but unavailable, respectful but unreachable. They can't bait you into arguments, can't trigger you into reactions, can't manipulate you into situations you don't want to be in. And this control, this emotional regulation, this ability to stay calm while everyone else is spiraling, this makes you look dangerous, because people equate emotional volatility with authenticity. They think if you're not reacting, you're not feeling. If you're not exploding, you're not real. If you're not messy, you're not human. They don't understand that you've simply evolved past the need to perform your emotions for an audience, that you've learned to process things internally instead of projectile vomiting your feelings onto everyone around you. You've developed what very few people ever develop: mastery over yourself, your emotions, your reactions, your energy. They call this coldness, but it's actually warmth. Warmth reserved for people who've earned it. Warmth protected by walls that keep out the energy vampires and the emotional terrorists and the chronic takers who mistake your kindness for weakness. You're not cold to everyone. You're just no longer warm to people who historically use your warmth to burn you. You're not closed off to the world. You're just incredibly selective about who gets access to your inner world, because you've learned that not everyone deserves a backstage pass to your soul, that some people need to stay in the audience section where they belong. This selectivity, this discretion, this is part of what makes you look like a gangster. Because gangsters have codes. They have circles of trust. They operate in hierarchies where not everyone has the same access. And you've adopted that structure not out of paranoia, but out of wisdom earned through painful experience. You know now that proximity isn't intimacy, that longevity isn't loyalty, that familiarity isn't friendship. You've learned to distinguish between people who are in your life and people who are on your side, between people who watch you and people who've got your back, between people who know you and people who understand you. So you've built rings of access around yourself, concentric circles of trust, where the outer rings get small talk and surface-level interaction, while the inner rings, those sacred spaces closest to your core, those are reserved for the few who've proven themselves through action, not words, through consistency, not grand gestures, through presence during the dark times, not just the celebrations. Most people never make it past the outer rings, and they hate that. They think they're entitled to your depth
just because they exist in your vicinity. They think longevity grants them automatic access, when really all it grants them is the opportunity to prove themselves. And most fail that test spectacularly. The ones who fail, the ones who expected you to stay open and vulnerable and available for their convenience, those are the ones calling you a gangster now, because what they're really saying is, you used to let me use you, and now you don't, and I'm angry about losing my privileges. They're mad that you closed the All Access Pass program, that you installed security systems where there used to be open doors, that you started charging for what you used to give away for free, not money, but energy, attention, time, care. They're upset that you realized your value and started acting accordingly. But let's address the elephant in the room, the thing nobody wants to talk about, but everyone's thinking. The reason this transformation makes people so uncomfortable. When you change like this, when you go from accommodating to assertive, from accessible to selective, from reactive to controlled, you force everyone around you to examine their own choices, their own boundaries or lack thereof, their own patterns of people-pleasing and self-abandonment. Your transformation becomes a mirror they can't avoid, and what they see reflected back makes them deeply uncomfortable, because it highlights their own stagnation, their own cowardice, their own inability to prioritize themselves.
The loudest in the room is the weakest in the fight, but the quiet ones, oh, they haunt you forever. A society, a circus of barking dogs, all fighting to be heard, shouting, screaming, clawing at each other just to stand in the spotlight for a moment, a brief, fleeting moment before they fade into nothing, forgotten, replaced. Because noise is cheap. It's forgettable. It's the tantrum of the weak, desperate to be noticed. But you? Oh, you never needed the volume, did you? No. You were the shadow that slithered between their noise, the quiet breath before the storm, the whisper that sends a shiver down their spine when they think they're alone. See, true power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need a grand entrance. It just is. It lingers, unseen, unheard, until it's too late. And that's what terrifies them, isn't it? That you don't fight for attention, yet they can't stop thinking about you. Your presence seeps into their bones, festers in their minds like an unshakable echo. They don't understand it. They don't know why, but it eats at them, haunts them. And that is real power. Because when the noise dies down, when the shouting stops, when all their frantic, desperate words fade into silence, only one thing remains: your name. Ghosts don't knock before they enter, they just appear. Oh, how they dismissed you. How they laughed, shrugged, turned their backs like you were nothing more than a flicker in the dark, a passing shadow. They never thought twice about you, never considered you a threat. You weren't loud, you weren't boastful, you didn't beg for a seat at their table, and that was their mistake. Because while they wasted their breath spilling empty words and hollow promises, you were watching, studying, smiling in silence. Every insult, every smirk, every moment they overlooked you, oh, you remembered. You let them build their walls of arrogance, stacking brick after brick, convinced they were untouchable. But what they never realized was that you were already inside. And now they can't escape you. They feel you everywhere, in the whispers behind their backs, in the weight pressing on their chests when they try to sleep. You didn't announce yourself. You didn't ask for attention. You stole it. Like a thief in the night, you slipped into their minds, curled up in the corners they thought were safe. And now you own them. It's funny, isn't it? The way they act now. How their eyes dart when they hear your name. How their voices lower. How they pretend they don't see you, but oh, they do. They see you in their nightmares, in the spaces between their thoughts, in the reflection staring back at them when they realize they were wrong. They never saw you coming, but now they can't look away, and they never will. A single whisper in the right ear can start a war. They think power is in the roar, in the chaos, in the spectacle of it all. The louder, the stronger. Isn't that what they believe? That if they make enough noise, they'll be feared, respected. But real power? Oh, real power doesn't need to shout. It barely needs to speak a single word, a glance, a whisper. And suddenly the whole world shifts. You learned that early, didn't you? That silence unsettles people. That control isn't about how loud you can be, but how little you need to be. You watched how the fools screamed to be heard while the real players sat in the shadows, making moves no one even noticed until it was too late. And you became the ghost in the room, the quiet force behind the curtain, the voice that slithered into their ears and stayed there. Because a whisper doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. It creeps in soft, insidious, wrapping around the mind like smoke. It plants seeds of doubt, of fear, of curiosity, and once it's there, it never leaves. A scream is forgotten in a storm of noise, but a whisper lingers. It festers. It echoes, and when they try to shake it, when they try to ignore it, it only grows louder in their heads. They never realized, did they, that while they were busy performing, chasing attention, drowning in their own noise, you were crafting something far deadlier, a reputation that didn't need to be yelled, a presence that didn't need to be forced. You let your actions do the screaming while your words barely made a sound. And that's why they can't forget you. Because the loud ones burn out. The world moves on. But the whisper lingers. It stains the air. And long after the noise dies down, your name is the only thing left in their heads. King who hides among the peasants is the deadliest of all. They never saw you as a threat, never took you seriously. To them you were just there, a passing face, a quiet presence, someone easily forgotten in the noise of their self-importance. But that was perfect. Let them laugh, let them turn their backs, let them believe they are safe. Because nothing is deadlier than the storm no one sees coming. See, the fools crave attention. They want to be the center of every room, the loudest in every conversation. They need to be noticed, and in doing so they expose every weakness, every crack in their armor. Meanwhile, you stayed silent, watching, smiling, letting them believe you were nothing more than a shadow in their world. But shadows don't stay shadows forever, do they? No. The moment always comes. That delicious moment when the underestimated becomes unstoppable. When the ignored one steps forward and the entire room goes quiet. They scramble to remember your name. Their faces twist with confusion, then fear. Because now they see you. And it's already too late. You played them like a game of chess, every move calculated, every step leading them closer to their own downfall. They were too busy enjoying the sound of their own voices to realize the board had shifted. Checkmate. And the one they never worried about, the one they overlooked, he was the king all along. It's almost funny, isn't it? The way they try to rewrite history now. Pretend they always knew you had potential, that they always respected you, but their eyes, oh, their eyes betray them. Behind the forced smiles, the fake congratulations, there's panic, regret, because they know, deep down, they should have seen it coming, but they didn't, and that's why they lost. They laughed at you once. Now, they stare in silence, wishing they had never turned their backs. Ah, the silence. It's deafening, isn't it? The same mouths that once spit doubt, that sneered at your ambitions, that whispered behind your back. Now they don't know what to say. Their voices are caught in their throats, strangled by the weight of regret. Oh, how the tables turn when the one they dismissed becomes the one they fear. They never thought twice about you. Just another face in the crowd. Just another dreamer they were so sure would never make it. And yet, look at them now. Their eyes tell the story. Their lips are too proud to admit. Regret. Pure, cold regret. They wish they had been kinder, wish they had listened, wish they had stood beside you when it actually mattered. But time is cruel, isn't it? It doesn't grant second chances. It doesn't let them undo their mistakes, erase the words they spat like venom, take back the nights they left you alone in the dark. No. Time is a ruthless thing, and it makes sure they feel every second of their failure. They can't go back. They can only watch as you rise higher, further, beyond their reach. And now they whisper your name like a ghost that haunts them. They see your success in every reflection, in every conversation that isn't about them. You've become a legend in their minds, a name they can't escape. They wonder, what if? What if they had believed in you? What if they had stood by your side instead of laughing from the shadows? But what ifs don't change the past. Oh, but the most poetic part? They don't hate you for your success. No, they hate themselves for not seeing it sooner, for not realizing what was right in front of them. And that burns more than any revenge you could have ever dreamed of. Because now, they have to live with it. Forever. The unknown is more terrifying than the truth. They want answers, need them, desperation dripping from their lips like a dying man begging for water. But you don't give them the satisfaction. No explanations, no justifications, just silence. Cold, calculated, suffocating. Because nothing unsettles the mind like not knowing. They replay your every move, searching for a pattern, a crack, a weakness, but there is none. You are chaos wrapped in control, a puzzle missing its final piece, and it eats at them, the not knowing, the uncertainty, the fear that maybe, just maybe, you're always 3 steps ahead, watching, waiting, ready to strike when they least expect it. Oh, how they obsess. They pick apart old conversations, dissect your past, whisper theories to each other in hushed tones. They think if they just dig deep enough, they'll figure you out. Fools. They don't realize the more they chase, the further away the truth gets. You've become their unsolvable riddle, their midnight thought that won't let them sleep. And that is your power. Not threats, not shouting, not revenge, just silence. A silence so heavy it crushes them, suffocates them, wraps around their throats like an invisible noose. Because the unknown isn't just frightening, it's torture. Let them wonder, let them obsess, let them spiral into madness trying to understand you. The truth? You don't owe them a damn thing. Imitation isn't flattery, it's surrender. At first, they laughed, mocked you, wrote you off as a nobody, a dreamer, another face in the crowd that would fade with time. They had no idea, no clue what was brewing beneath your silence. They saw nothing, so they assumed there was nothing. But oh, they were wrong. Then the shift happened. The laughter stopped. The whispers started. They watched you, studied you, analyzed every step, every move, every calculated decision. They couldn't ignore you anymore. Not when your presence had become something undeniable. Not when your success became a storm too big to outrun. And now, they copy you. The same ones who said you'd never make it are suddenly walking in your footprints, as if by tracing your path they can claim it as their own. They take your words, your ideas, your essence, desperately trying to wear your skin like a cheap disguise. But here's the joke. A counterfeit will never carry the weight of the original. They think they can steal what makes you, you. But what they don't understand is that they're already too late. By the time they catch on to your last move, you are already making the next one. You are a shifting storm, never staying in one place long enough for them to grasp. They copy your past while you carve out your future. And that's the victory. Not in stopping them, not in confronting them. No, the real power is in knowing they have given up on being themselves. They have surrendered, bowed down to your influence. They wanted to be better than you, and yet, here they are, chasing your shadow. Let them copy, let them scramble to keep up. They will never understand that you are unrepeatable. You are not a trend, you are not a template, you are the blueprint. And they are just cheap forgeries waiting to fade. Funny, isn't it? The ones who mocked you now hesitate to say your name. Once they spoke your name with laughter, mockery, dismissal. They threw your name around like it was weightless, like it meant nothing. But time has a way of twisting things, doesn't it? Now, when they hear it, their voices drop, their eyes shift, their smiles tighten. They act like they don't care, but their silence screams. You never had to lay a finger on them. No revenge, no outbursts, no grand displays of fury. No need. Their own minds did the work for you. Regret is a slow poison, and they've been drinking it for years. Every time your name is mentioned, it hits like a whisper in the dark. Soft, but impossible to ignore. They try to pretend they don't remember. But memories have sharp edges, don't they? Your face flickers in their thoughts at night. Your success creeps into their conversations, and that's the irony. You never chased them, yet they can't escape you. You are the shadow in their rearview mirror, the ghost in the corner of their eye. And the best part, they fear you, but they don't even know why. You never threatened them, never lifted a hand. But fear isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet dread. A realization that they backed the wrong horse, that they underestimated the wrong person, that you became something far beyond their reach. They hesitate before they speak now. They flinch at the sound of your name, and that hesitation, that's power. It means they still feel your presence, even when you're nowhere near. They still wonder if you're watching, if you know how the tables have turned. So let them drown in their own unease. Let them choke on the silence they once wished upon you. They thought you were nothing, and yet you echo in their heads forever. They don't have to love you, they just have to never forget you. Some chase applause, others chase fear. But you never chased anything. You walked your own path, and the world had no choice but to follow, whether they wanted to or not. They didn't always like you, no, but they felt you, and that's more powerful than their fleeting affection. Legends aren't built on approval. They are carved out of defiance, sharpened by rejection, and ignited by the kind of madness that makes history. The people who changed the world weren't the ones who fit in. They were the ones who set fire to the mold and built something unrecognizable from the ashes. You never played by their rules, never begged for a seat at their table, and now they sit around that very table, whispering your name like a ghost story. They tell themselves they don't care, that you're irrelevant, but oh, if that were true, why do they still speak of you? Why does your shadow still loom over their thoughts? It's funny, isn't it? The ones who despised you are the ones who keep you alive, long after you're gone. Long after they have nothing left but their regrets, your name will still linger. Not because they wanted to remember, but because they can't forget. That's the difference between those who exist and those who leave a mark. People exist every day. They come, they go, their names fade into the wind. But you are a scar on the world, a permanent imprint that will never fully heal. So let them love you, let them hate you, let them twist your story into something they can stomach. It doesn't matter, because long after their voices die out, your echo will still be heard. You weren't here to be liked. You were here to be remembered. A scream fades, a whisper lingers, and you'll haunt them for eternity. You didn't need to shout to be heard, didn't need to fight for their attention. No grand speeches, no desperate grabs for the spotlight. While they screamed for relevance, you moved in silence, letting time do the talking. And now they can't get you out of their heads. Your name slithers through their minds in the dead of night, a ghost they swore they buried, yet here you are again. They can't silence you, can't erase you, can't escape the weight of your presence. They mocked you once, turned their backs, dismissed you like a passing thought, but passing thoughts don't linger, do they? They hear your voice in their failures, see your shadow in their regrets. They thought they won, thought they could forget you. But the funny thing about whispers, they never truly die. They stay, they echo. A scream is deafening, but it fades. A roar shakes the room, but eventually the silence returns. But a whisper lingers. It plants itself deep, wrapping around their minds like a slow tightening noose. No matter how far they run, how high they climb, your presence is there, just beneath the surface, waiting. You don't need their approval. Their regret is more than enough. Because now, they aren't just thinking about you, they're obsessing over you. Every success, every move, every breath you take reminds them of what they never saw coming. You played the long game, and you won. Let them wrestle with their guilt. Let them tell themselves, you don't matter. But if that were true, Why does your name still crawl through their thoughts like an unshakable nightmare? Why does the mention of you make their breath hitch, their pulse quicken, their stomach drop? They tried to silence you, but now they can't stop listening. You were never loud, never desperate for their eyes, their ears, their attention, and yet you have it. Forever. That's the final laugh, isn't it? The kind that doesn't need to be heard to be felt. You don't need to shout to be unforgettable. You don't need to demand space in their minds, because you already own it. And long after they're gone, long after their voices fade, you'll still be echoing